Good morning, Your Holiness. Good morning, Venerable Dai. Good morning, all the venerable monks and nuns, and good morning, friends. Thank you for inviting us to this unique dialogue. And first of all, I'm very grateful to Your Holiness for coming to Toronto, and we were there at the official welcome event. And I would like to especially thank Venerable Lama Tenzin Dakpa for inviting me to this great event. And this is the fourth dialogue that we are having in Toronto. And I was actually thinking of having Your Holiness for our big event, the Buddhist festival last Sunday. We had a lot of monks and nuns and over 10,000 people coming to one place, but we missed your presence at that. But today I'm happy that we are here on one stage, sharing some words of wisdom for this important topic.
大家早上好，非常高兴来到这里来参加这一次对话。我非常开心能够在这里和达义法师和噶玛巴法王一起在台上。我想在这里感谢在座的各位，感谢在座的这个法师，尤其是登森喇嘛，感谢他对这次活动做出的很多的贡献。非常开心这次法王能够来到多伦多。这个活动，这次对话是我们的第4次活动，第4次在多伦多举行了。我们其实上周日呢还有一个卫赛节是在密西沙加市举行的，很可惜当时法王没有能够和我们一起参加，但是我很高兴今天法王在这里和我们能够有这样的一个机会参加这样的对谈。
Okay, so although we represent 3 different traditions, basically we are the sons and daughters, the disciples of the Buddha.
虽然我们代表了是3大不同的这个派系，但是呢，我们都是佛陀的这个子女。
Probably we are going to talk about the same thing.
我们可能讲的问题都是一样的。
So maybe with a bit different flavor, you know?
可能讲话的这种方式不同而已。
In the early Buddhist teachings, afflictive emotions understood as the dukkha.
在佛陀早期的教育中，
Now,
烦恼是叫做 dukkha 苦。
At the beginning of this session, there was a video, the film played, and it highlighted the 4 noble truths. This is the suffering or dukkha, the cause of the dukkha, and the cessation of the dukkha, and the path that leads to the cessation of dukkha.
在我们刚才看的那段影像里面呢，有一段实际上是讲述了四圣谛的内容，讲述了苦集灭道。
So the dukkha, although it has been translated into English as the suffering or pain or distress or disappointment or frustration, but this word, Pali word dukkha or Sanskrit word dukkha, has a very deep meaning.
虽然 dukkha 这个字，苦这个字，经常被叫做是苦、痛苦、烦恼、焦虑，但是在 dukkha 这个字里面，实际上是有非常深的含义的。
And this word, Pali word dukkha, is coming from 2 words. And
在巴利语里面 dukkha 实际上是2个意思。
So du in Pali and Sanskrit, it's a upasarga prefix, which means difficult.
do 这个字呢，实际上意思是很困难的。
And ka has the meaning, is a verb, which has the meaning to bear, to handle, to endure.
然后它这个意思是承受的意思。
So the dukkha simply means something difficult to bear in mind, to handle in mind.
所以 dukkha 苦这个字实际上意思是难以承受，在心理上难以承受。
So now if we ask, what is so difficult to handle in life, physically and mentally and emotionally?
现在我们有很多身心上都难以承受的事情。
The one definition given by the Buddha when he talked about dukkha, there's a very famous Pali sentence. It's called Yam pichang na labhati tampi dukkhang, which means not getting what you want is painful, is difficult to bear emotionally.
那么有一句巴利语里面讲烦恼的一句话呢，就是说你得不到想要得到的就是苦。
So now there are so many things so difficult to bear in life.
现在生活中有那么多难以让人承受的事情。
It could be anxiety, it could be depression, it could be any other emotional struggles in life. So difficult to bear.
它可能是焦虑，可能是悲伤，可能是生活中很多各种各样的烦恼的情绪。
So the Buddha's understanding is, we have to follow the Four Noble Truths model. That's a technique. You identify the problem, what's the emotion, what is the afflicting emotion, then you diagnose the cause, the condition of this afflicting emotion, and then Buddha says there's the end of it. We can stop this problem. And to stop this emotional problem, here's the path that you have to follow.
所以佛陀讲述了四圣谛的内容。四圣谛的内容就是，首先我们要发现这里是有烦恼的，然后去观察烦恼升起的原因。如果想要烦恼停止的话，我们就需要走上一条让烦恼停止的道路。
So to transform, to end all the emotional problems in life, we need to follow the Noble Eightfold Path.
如果我们想要去改变这些烦恼，想要去转换这些烦恼，那我们就必须要遵循八正道的这种修持方法。
So now let us in the Noble Eightfold Path. One of them is called the right intention, right thought.
在八正道的修行方法中，有一个就是正念的修行方法。
So there's a wrong intention, wrong thought, and the right intention, right thought. 它之间是分一个正念和一个负面的或者是说错误的想法。So what Buddha did was, he said to end all emotional struggles in life, we need to learn to do a major paradigm shift. It is also known as the selective thinking, and also in Western modern psychology, it's known as the shifting attention.
如果我们想要终止生活中的这些烦恼的话，我们就需要把自己的思维方式做一个翻天覆地的转换。那也就是说，需要选择应该怎样去思考，怎样去思维。
So you train yourself to shift your attention from wrong thinking to the right thinking.
也就是你在训练自己从错误的想法转变成正确的想法，正确的思维方法。
So now let me give you an example, or maybe I can highlight 3 afflictive emotions. It's based on the Noble Eightfold Path. And there are thoughts associated with lust or greed or craving or desire. There are thoughts associated with anger or hatred. There are thoughts associated with harm or violence. So what we have to do is to shift our attention from these negative thoughts to the positive ones. So the thoughts, now you pay attention to the thoughts associated with renunciation, thoughts associated with love and compassion, and the thoughts associated with no harm or non-violence. So now when you do this, when you shift your attention from negative to positive, then there's a change taking place within, physically and emotionally.
我想给大家举3个例子，这3个例子，并且怎样用八正道的方法来对治它们。这3个例子就是这3个烦恼就是贪欲、嗔心和暴力。当我们想要把思想从负面的想法转换成正面的想法，我们应该怎样去做呢？我们应该有一种慈悲心，我们应该有一种平等的心去面对一切的时候，我们就能够把负面的思维方式转换为正面的思维方式，也就从而会使人的身心都产生转变。
So then, in this Noble Eightfold Path, there is another step called the Samma Vayama, right effort. So the right effort has to be done in 4 steps. Pahana, Sangvara, Pahana, Bhavana, Anurakkhana. Sangvara means prevention. Pahana means elimination. Bhavana means cultivation. And Anurakkhana means preservation, sustenance. Now what does it mean? Let's say if there is an image or something we have to, which causes the negative emotions to arise, we have to train ourselves to prevent from paying attention to such objects, stories, or things. And then we have to make an effort to eliminate the negative emotions which have already arisen in the mind. Oh yeah, this is what happens. I'm a Christian speaker. Okay.
在八正道中呢，我们还要有一种正确的方式去行持它。比如说，首先要尽量去避免，然后去消除，然后呢，再可以去让自己升起一种正念，并且能够防止下次再去犯这样的错误。
Okay, so and then the first 2 steps are very important: prevention and elimination. Now, so then we need to train ourselves to cultivate the positive emotions. Let's say love and compassion. And then we need to sustain these positive emotions. We need to continue to cultivate these positive emotions every day to sustain our emotional well-being.
那么在前2步的时候呢，我们首先要尽量的能够让自己升起一些快乐和积极的情绪，比如说大笑啊、快乐以及慈悲心、爱心这样子。然后后期呢，我们再去尽量的保持这样的一种正面的心态。
So in doing this is in line with modern psychology and also neuroscience research. I find this very interesting. Like, all the emotional problems are coming into being in life because we are just paying attention, focusing on things. We are just looking at things. But the Buddha said, don't just look at the things, now train yourself how you are looking at the things, how you're reacting to the things in the environment.
那么在现代的心理学和现代的精神科学中，其实也谈到了一样的问题。但是呢，我们经常总是去看着这个问题，但是佛陀讲的是，我们应该怎样去看待这些升起的问题。
Okay, so I can give you a very simple example to understand this. Let's say we are happy for a fact that His Holiness said the 17th Karmapa is here. His Holiness is very young, very handsome, and beautiful to look at. So now, I know it's funny, but then if I just look at him, let's say all of you look at him that way, and I was, I have to understand, I am looking at His Holiness with this particular emotion, like, he's handsome, he's beautiful, he's so nice, something like that. So when you observe inside, right, Buddha said, don't just look at things, look at how you're reacting to the environment, to the objects. So when you do this, all the emotions, mind begins to relax.
比如说，当我们看到法王非常的欢喜，我们看到法王在这里这么年轻、这么英俊庄严的法王坐在我们面前，当我们看着他的时候，我们就觉得非常的开心。但是佛陀教导我们，不要仅仅的去看法王这个年轻才俊的脸庞，而是要怎么样去看自己的心和自己的情绪的产生。比如说，我们在看法王的时候，如果能够看到自己的心和自己的情绪怎么样产生的时候，然后我们告诉自己这是我的情绪，然后我再长呼一口气，再放松，这样。
It can be applied with anything, any negative emotion. So let's say somebody, made you angry. If you just look at that person, you're going to be very angry, very upset. But when the moment you realize, I'm looking at this person with this angry mind, with anger, with upsetting mind, the moment you become conscious, the moment you become mindful, aware, the negative emotions which has arisen is going to calm down, relax. So all negative emotions are the result of being unconscious. When you become conscious, all negative emotions go away. Then you transform that with the positive emotions. Let's say if now your angry person is there in front of you, now say, I'm looking at this person with angry mind. Now let me just develop love and compassion for him. May I be free from anger. May my enemy also become free from anger. When you do this, it helps you to overcome, transform all your negative and afflictive emotions.
实际上，我们可以以这样的方式去对任何人修行。比如说，一个人让我们感到非常的生气，让我们产生了很强烈的嗔恨心的时候，这个时候，如果这个人就在我们面前，我们不要对他不要只是看着这个人让我生气，而是看着生气的这个情绪。我们对生气的这个情绪产生觉知，对这种负面的情绪产生觉知。实际上，大部分时候我们之所以会有负面的情绪，是因为我们对它没有任何的觉知。但是，当我们对它对这种情绪产生觉知的时候，这种情绪我们就可以让这种情绪离开。在这个让负面情绪离开之后呢，我们还可以去让自己产生更多的积极的情绪、积极的想法。比如说， 如果这个让我生气的人就站在我面前，我并不是想着怎么样去伤害他，而是想着怎么样去让这个人感到快乐，怎么样把这个慈心和爱心给他。那在这样的情况下呢，这种负面的情绪就会消失不见。所以我们可以在这个时候就想，我希望我自己可以不生气，可以远离愤怒，也希望我的敌人也能够远离愤怒。那通过这样的方法，我们就能够转换负面的情绪。
Anyways, I don't have much time. I have so much to share with you. But you know, Buddha taught this technique for 45 years, but we are trying to understand this within 2 hours. It's impossible. So I have many techniques taught by the Buddha based on different sutras. But maybe during the question answer session, we can continue our dialogue. And so once again, thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. And I wish you all the best. And may the blessings of the Buddha be with you. Thank you.
很遗憾，今天没有那么多时间和大家一起分享这么多的内容。因为佛陀他在45年中教导了这么多的修行的方法，但是很可惜我们今天只有2个小时，所以很难有这样的方法能够让大家都学会修心的各种修心的办法。但是呢，也许我们有时间会在一会儿的提问和问答的时间里面，大家可以再问我问题。非常感谢，再次感谢能够有机会在这里和大家分享，然后希望大家能够得到佛陀的加持，非常感谢。
Thank you, Venerable Pandit Saranapana. Next, please join me in welcoming our second speaker, Venerable Shi Dai.
Your Holiness, the 17 Kamaba, Bhante Saranapana, distinguished guests, Sangha members, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is our honor to welcome His Holiness, the 17 Kamaba, to Canada for the first time. Back in the mid-70s, His Holiness in 16 Kamaba has visited us and the Buddhist Association of Canada, Zaishan Temple. During his tour in Canada, 40-something years later today, I'm glad to engage in a dialogue with His Holiness the Bhante Saranapala and here in the University of Toronto. My speech today will be delivered in Chinese, where my disciple William Chen will translate my words into English. Now I will discuss on how Mahayana Buddhist teaching can transform afflictive emotions. 尊敬的大宝法王，Venerable Bhante，各位大德、各位嘉宾、各位居士、各位朋友，大家早上好。今天我们非常的荣幸，在加拿大多伦多，可以跟大宝法王还有Bhante在一起，来共同分享佛法，怎么样来对治我们每一个人心中的烦恼。从佛法来讲，我们在这一生当中能够听到法王这个名字，本身就是很有福报的。何况呢，今天我们能够近距离的，能够面对面的来听大宝法王的开示，这是在座各位多生多世的福报。所以我们希望在座各位今天在这边，我们听大宝法王的开示，要把他讲的话记在心里面，然后落实到生活当中去修行，这样相信对大家生活方面都是非常有帮助的。
Good morning, everyone. Venerable Masters, His Holiness Karmapa, Bante, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed our honor to be here sharing the three traditions Buddhist teaching with everyone today. We have lots of good merits from our past life in order to not just hear the name of His Holiness, but also meet Him face to face in the presence in this convocation hall today. May we all listen to His teachings deeply with our mind and then sink it into our daily lives.
第16世的大宝法王曾经访问过我们加拿大佛教会湛山精舍，我们的长老今年94岁，他今天特别叫我来向你问好，希望你有机会，请你到我们加拿大佛教会湛山精舍来，开示法要。我们佛教呢，诞生印度，发展到全世界。虽然我们现在有汉传佛教，有藏传佛教，有南传佛教，在修行形式方面不一样，在这个语言诵经方面不一样，但是我们的核心价值，我们的目的是一样的。我们大家都相信缘起性空，相信因果六道轮回，同时我们也相信每个人有福性，通过修行，将来所有人都能够成佛。
His Holiness the 16th Karmapa had once visited the Buddhist Association of Canada Shamshan Temple back in the 70s and have met our founder, the Elder Master Shin Kong, and he now is 94-year-old. It is indeed our pleasure today to be able to meet the 17th Karmapa once again. Buddhism originates in ancient India. It evolves into the three major traditions today, namely Vajrayana, Theravada, and the Mahayana school of Buddhism. Although these three traditions vary in language, ritual, and practice, they are just different expressions of the same teaching of the Buddha. We all share the same core teaching of dependent arising, law of causation, and recognizing the intrinsic Buddha nature in all sentient beings.
今天我的主题是化烦恼为菩提。我从中国佛教的禅宗思想来看待这个问题。大家都知道，中国佛教一位非常出名的叫布利达玛，他从印度到中国的广州，后来到现在的南京，最后呢到嵩山去面壁9年。那么有一次呢，有一位将军英勇上战，叫慧可神光，他感觉到心里面很难过。虽然他英勇上战，每一次打仗都打赢了，但是他杀了好多人，他感觉到他们都是无辜的，所以呢，心里面非常痛苦、难过，吃不下，睡不着，每天就好像活在地狱里面一样，非常非常的痛苦。后来他听说印度有一位高僧大德布利达玛到了中国来，所以呢，他特地呢去求见他。那么这个菩提达摩祖师就问他说：“你来做什么？”他说：“我心不安。”那么这个时候菩提达摩祖师就问他了：“你把心拿给我看，当下密心了不可得。”那么这个慧可神光觉悟了，当下烦恼也没有了。所以从这个禅宗的公案里面说明呢，我们每一个人不管是内在的烦恼或是外在的烦恼，其实就是一个心念的问题。当我们没有觉悟的时候，我们用凡夫心、希望分别心，我们就会执着，我们就会计较，所以呢，会给我们惹来好多的困惑。 当我们有一天我们觉悟了，悟到烦恼就像天空的云一样，有时候来，有时候去。天空就是我们的自信，就是我们福性。我们的福性永远是清净的，烦恼呢是有来有去。所以呢，时间可以改变一切。当我们烦恼来的时候呢，懂得去修行的话呢，这个烦恼自然而然就没有了。
Today, I would like to explore our topic of how to transform our afflictive emotion through the Chinese Chan's teaching. In Chan, there is a famous first patriarch, Buddhism. Buddhism originates from India, then traveled to China, set foot in Nanjing, then eventually in Mount Shushan. Then there is this practitioner who became the second patriarch later on, called Weike. Before he becomes a monk, his name is Shen Guang. He was a warrior who have led to fight many wars. But during the war, he have killed numerous lives. After he learned Buddhism and became a monk, he regrets his action of killing a lot, to the extent that he cannot eat, he cannot sleep, he lives in turmoil, and he thinks he's in hell by having a very disturbed mind. So he decided to pay visit to Master Bodhidharma and consult him on how to ease his disturbed mind. The conversation goes as follows. So Shen Guang asked, "Master, my mind has no peace as yet. Please put it to rest." Bodhidharma then answered, "Show me your mind, and I'll put it to rest." After a long search, Shen Guang replied, "Upon searching, I cannot find my mind." Bodhidharma then exclaimed, "I have indeed completely put it to rest for you." This story demonstrates Fuchan's practice that all sources of our negative emotions, whether it comes from the outside or internal, all originates from our discriminative mind that tends to cling onto things and crave the illusionary. Once we understand this, all discrimination will cease and our true mind will be revealed. A parable is like the illusions in our discriminative mind is like the cloud, whereas our true mind, our true nature, is like the vast sky. The cloud may come and go, arise and cease, but the sky is always here.
我们怎么样呢？化烦恼为菩提，在禅宗的第二个公案里面，就讲到有神秀大师，还有慧能大师两个人成一个寄语给他师父，去看看他们修行的境界怎么样。神秀大师说：“身如菩提树，心如明镜台，时时勤拂拭，勿使惹尘埃。”意思就是说，当我们有烦恼的时候，我们常常要关心，要用一种方法去对治它。当然，这个对我们一般人来讲呢，是一个非常好的一个修行方法。但是从禅宗的境界里面讲呢，这个还不彻底。所以呢，六祖慧能大师呢，就写了另外一个寄语，说：“菩提本无树，明镜亦非台，本来无一物，何次惹尘埃。”哇，这个时候他师父看到这个寄语里面非常的彻底。这个说明什么道理呢？我们为什么有烦恼？因为你错用你的心，你用你的希望分别心来对待，你烦恼就越来越多。如果有一天你通过拜佛、持咒、诵经、坐禅， 能够找到你本有的清净心的时候呢，烦恼自然而然就没有了。
The second story we would like to share with everyone today happens between the 6th Chan Patriarch Master Huineng and Master Shen Xiu. Their teacher have asked them to write a poem to reflect their Chan's practice. So Master Shen Xiu came up with this. He said, "The body is like a Bodhi tree. Our mind is a bright mirror on a stand. Wipe clean the mirror often, so no dust may alight." This indeed is a great poem reflecting that we would learn to use all kinds of methods, whether it's meditation or chanting or various methods, to observe our mind conventionally. This is a very great example. However, Master Huineng, with even a higher level of practice and Brajna wisdom, replied yet with another poem like this. He said, "Fundamentally, there is no Bodhi tree, nor the stand of a mirror bright. When there is nothing whatsoever, where can dust alight?" His master then commented, Shen Xiu's poem is talking about the conventional truth, where Huineng's poem is on the ultimate. It is showing us that all phenomena in the world, including our discriminative mind and afflictive emotions, are ever-changing and not real in nature. Through all kinds of practice, we can let go of grasping the illusionary and let our true permanent mind shine through.
我们常常会讲说，我烦恼，我痛苦，我不舒服。但是从佛法来讲，释迦牟尼在《金刚经》里面讲说，过去心不可得，未来心也不可得，现在心也不可得。为什么说现在心不可得呢？因为现在的心是刹那刹那的在生命，所以我们所有的烦恼呢，都是因为我们自己想不开，我有烦恼。所以从佛法里面讲说，我们知道过去心不可得，未来心不可得，现在心也不可得。那我们现在怎么做呢？把握当下，当下做一念心，你不要染污，不要被外在所影响，那么你心就清净了。心清净，国土就清净了，烦恼也没有了。
We often feel that there are all kinds of sufferings, delusions, and disturbance in life. In the Diamond Sutra, there's a verse that says, "It is impossible to retain a past thought, to seize a future thought, and even hold on to a present thought. The past is already past. Future has not yet arrived. Even the present thought arise and cease, and that's why we cannot grasp it." By engaging into meditative practice, we can learn to clarify our polluted mind and live the present moment. By living the present moment, our true mind would not be polluted. This is the path to blissfulness and tranquility.
以上所讲呢，我是根据释迦牟尼佛还有我们中国的历代高僧大德他的修行对治烦恼的方法。那么接下来呢，我讲讲我个人在这个生活当中是怎么样来转化烦恼的。
The above are teachings from the Sakyamuni Buddha, as well as famous exchange and stories from historical masters. Now I would like to share some personal experience and facing sufferings and negative emotions with you.
我记得在2011年的5月28号，是我们加拿大五台山 奠基大典的时候，我邀请了几千个嘉宾在彼得堡参加我们这个奠基大典。但是那一天突然之间下了很大的雨，这个路道全部的车子不能走，在山上我们布置的坛场全部弄得乱七八糟。那我是一个很要面子的人，邀请了这么多嘉宾，本来是想把最好的、最庄严的坛场来跟大家分享，没有想到到了舞台上是这么一个情况，哇！当时心里面很难过，很没有面子。还有呢，这个义工呢，因为呢临时这样的改变，都非常的混乱。哦，这个是心里面一直要发脾气，啊，要找义工发脾气。后来我就觉得我不能发脾气，我要镇定。所以呢，我这个时候两个我，一个是我的本有的自信的我，另外一个是希望分别的我，两个人在打仗。我说你不能发脾气，你不能发脾气，他就说我要发脾气，啊，所以这个时候呢，哇，这个我就马上坐下来，我就打坐几分钟以后把心定下来，所以说 OK 好了，我现在没事了，现在我们要面对它，既然是天气是这样，我们要随顺因缘，该怎么样就怎么样，所以呢，我们一切重新开始，重新布置。好，那个时候呢，我就感觉到，哎，我这个修行还是有用的，平常打坐还是有用的，在你关键时刻，这个时候你不会发脾气，能够把它镇得住。所以我说这个禅修啊，对于我们这个脾气啊，是非常有帮助的。
First example is in May 2018, in May 28, 2011, we hosted the foundation laying ceremony at our Wu Taishan's Buddhist garden in Peterborough. That day, we have invited thousands of guests in the event. Unfortunately, the weather wasn't cooperating. It rained cats and dogs. Our roadways, even the altar, all the decorations are damaged badly. Everything is just like chaotic and in a big mess. I am a person of pride. During that time, I got really emotional and disturbed. I nearly want to get angry and scream at some of my volunteers. At that moment, my true calm self and my discriminative mind are having walls around each other. Luckily, I did have some meditative practice, so I calmed myself in this situation for a few moments to settle my negative emotion first. Then I managed quickly to not let the discrimination and emotion take over. During that day, I still managed to overcome the situation with calmness and take care of everyone and everything the best way I could. I'm so happy that I do practice meditation and can control my mind during such a negative event.
我的时间呢，只有给我10分钟，啊，本来有好多要去讲的，没有时间。我相信呢，因为今天呢是以我们大宝法王做主角，我们两个是配角，所以我们应该多点时间来请大宝法王跟大家开示法要。谢谢各位，祝大家吉祥如意，阿弥陀佛。
Thank you, everyone. For a little time, we should reserve more time for His Holiness to give you His teachings.
Thank you very much, Venerable Shidai. Now, please join me in welcoming His Holiness the 17th Karmapa. Your Holiness, please.
강은 대제 저 가보면 개면 세바면 다음에 원하면 좀 다들 되면 주변이 시대가 서로 상에만은 담바대라 차자 的是，这的，俺就进南边的，俺就出去南边，当然是成语的南边，当然新的，出去南边些，但南边的就不送的，军事吧，냠多的，做嘛的。给不上不，日穷不来，一套来配备，俺就这个那个，俺就本地，这当然新的，俺就给大师的长路里啊，这个明的讲经的，也不是眼嘛说，明的老表，这研究啥呢？俺的装起，这给不上不穷的了，搞起来种事，这当啊，这。我是爬松的，从都忙不了中纽约，一那样，俺这南边个区域松那就中间，就中人下，真的，他都不接，真的就穷嘛松，那这样，人家用啊各个上不中不的，我呢给不上不修行上不去，没些南不进我呢那样的，当然是俺那因为没些那么远呢，南边个区域上不了了。罗中罗基，学点个这些这印度啥呢？给军人带呢，那什么呀？主要什么啥东西
？It is a wonderfully fortunate opportunity that we have here today, where we have representatives of three major traditions of the Buddha Dharma gathering together and discussing the meaning of Buddha Dharma. We have a representative of the northern Indian tradition of Buddhism, we have a representative of the Chinese tradition of Buddhism, and we have a representative of the Tibetan lineages of Buddhism. I think this is a very fortunate situation. Of course, I have had many opportunities up to now to participate in various types of conferences, dialogues, and so forth. But I think that this is the very first time that I have had the chance to participate in such a discussion where representatives of all three major Buddhist traditions of the world are present and participating. And so I think this is an extremely fortunate opportunity for all of us in general, but in particular for me personally, because as someone who is continually studying Buddhism and interested in learning more about the Buddha Dharma, I think that this is a very precious situation. So it brings me great delight to be here.
在今天我们可以跟这样一个难得的聚会当中，我们能够见到南传佛教、北传佛教还有藏传佛教这样三大传承的，可以说持教大师们相聚一堂。尤其我们跟尊贵的板爹大师还有达义法师，我们相聚在这里，我个人也感到非常非常的高兴。其实从以前到现在，我参加过非常非常多类似的佛教的会议，但是这大概是我第一次参加是这样子三个传承一起讨论的一个佛教会议，所以我个人感到非常的高兴。从整体佛教来说，今天非常的难得，而且从我个人来说，我也非常高兴，因为我觉得自己就是一个佛弟子，不断的在佛教当中学习。那今天能够跟这样两位大师相聚一堂，我也感到非常的荣幸。
아니 다 드린데 가수에 아주기 콘도 콘나바니기 아니 마칼롭 나가래 안다 디나네 지금 알아데 로충슈르 차디도 드린 주산에 다디 게시알에 세브르스도 엔디 토리아디 게시 에네 얘기해서 주주지리야 사고 유설에 근데 기준이 주 인지게다 자게 지지두산 다 망부지 쉬하게 있어마다 망부지 쉬신이 민도다 안에 쉬하게 두즈에 시라면서 다 이면 들이디 다그 권수변 나신 다지 개바 상보지 이미 인주사네 개바 상비다 고급대 마셔 제제 수수기 다지 이수마도 시험도 비비네야 다디지 수수기 오늘 somewhere 다지 개바 상보지 인삼지 애니 슌드 쇼송
That's so. Up to now, we've had the good fortune of hearing discourses from these two wonderful masters who have spoken. Of the three speakers for today's program, I am the youngest one, and that makes me quite nervous about saying anything. And furthermore, I think our time is quite limited this morning, and most of it has elapsed already. And so I feel that I'm nervous to speak, I don't have much time to speak, and I feel that I don't really know that much from which I could speak. But nevertheless, as I mentioned earlier, I think this gathering represents a wonderful opportunity of good fortune. And therefore, to honor that good fortune, even if I say only one or two words, I aspire that it will be meaningful.
那么在之前，其实两位法师都已经给了很好的这个开示。实在来说，我是他们当中年纪最轻的，所以我也不好意思真的多说什么。而且再来有限于这个时间，听说11点要讲完，还再加上有英文、中文翻译，我想我能够讲的实在是不多。但是就像最开始我提到，我自己也很荣幸，感到非常难得参加这样的一个活动，所以我想接下来我会简单的讲几句话。
他们是 topic 的，然后我们嘛哈我们是的 topic 的。然后我们去看的这些啦嘛些了，去他们说的，得来是就是呢，那这边去点呢，那就人的人马来西亚去写说，现在，他做的个牛毛个啥？
牛出，牛毛难得
我觉得，他昨天给这写嘛，昨天。的。한국 정부 지금 지역을 마음을 교정 정신 기준 마음이 다 대리야 가는 라우라 시 남규지 가져와다 지 상계의 최 냠네 지 최사의 남규네 아주 다르마사디 아니 지 지당기 리자르게 된다 마음이야 주의해 빈바 이제래 이네 디나네 금들이야 안직 최사디 에너지 죄밤 교화 담바사르지 드리지랴 남균 드리지 과랜디가 와라 주주 담바사지 드린 주산에 안직 최사디지 너나지 아주 최냠네 차 교바디 대지 수수의 전유 dü야스란 정도 야나지 랑기 셈데지 상쇼 교원자 임프루브자 다 드레지리아 고알랭 우유스레
So, we encounter this term all the time, which is Dharma, the Buddha Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha. If we look at the meaning of the Sanskrit word dharma, there are many different levels and layers of meaning that can be brought out. But I think here in our present context, if we look at the word dharma, which is translated into Tibetan as chö, I think the main meaning that is highlighted here is one of transformation. The Tibetan word chö is a cognate of another Tibetan word, jö, which means to change, to transform. And so I think that the essential meaning of the Dharma is to tame our own mind stream, to bring about a change for the better within our minds.
在佛教当中，我们会谈到一个词叫做 Dharma， 也就是法。那它在梵文里面称为叫 Dharma， 它本身这个词它带有很多很多的意思，但最主要其中一个意思跟我们今天这个烦恼的主题有关的，也就是法，它代表的是什么呢？也就是转化，还有调整、驯服的意思。所以我们常常说，为什么要学佛，或者为什么要修行？它其实指的就是调伏我们的心。什么叫调伏我们的心呢？就是让你的心更加的向善，或者说让你的心得以开启跟进步。
那么就特别给大家说，那么我们这年龄没提什么的，大关注给把所给特别。土年是写不上来，然都被土年用准备，你这个的嘛，送下不，但是这个体的嘛，我就用的下来。其实拿了 emphasize 些什么，再度对你送下不吉利啊，但这确实老蛮多事情，但是这再对其实送过下来。
In the tradition of the great masters of the past in Tibet, they gave many direct, pithy, heart-to-heart instructions that arose directly from their own experience of practicing the Dharma. And what we see in many of the profound written instructions that they left behind is that they always emphasize that our Dharma practice must be done in a dharmic way.
在过去的藏传佛教的传承祖师当中，他们经常会以这种指引心性，也就是实修的方式，而将许多的经验透过口诀，透过一种教授传承下来。而你会发现在这么多的教授当中，祖师们一直强调一个重点，也就是我们叫做要让这个法它真的成为法，我们叫做愿法像法。
也就是大体 emphasize 下的做的，按照的你去开始就迷茫不起上面拿了嘞，就确切是的啥呢？但这当确切是可话的，就连当没这忙不起，就说拿了的就马上拿了的，确实的可话连当没这忙不起下的了嘞。那可是就恰恰啊，但就确不皮啊。在这里啊，就确实挂连的样子不当。然后看些就别是大，在这里啊，就确实确切不得是挂连的样子不。然后看些我们2年下来啊，确切不得是挂连的样子不。但在这挂连的忙不起好的是。但因呢，地区难的，但挂连的忙不休息的差不多。但第呢，我那成那个就确。我那阵那么什么的，他去我那其他的肯定也没啥的，没有写过的，给什么差的啊的是。
There are many ways that different people interpret the concept of what it means to practice the Dharma. And when we talk about practicing the Dharma, there are many ways in which that notion is understood by different people and in our society. Some people, when they think of practicing the Dharma, think of performing prostrations, making offerings, and engaging in other ritual activities. Some people, when they think of practicing the Dharma, they think of studying sacred or philosophical texts and so forth. And still others might think immediately of practicing meditation when they bring to mind the notion of practicing the Dharma. So there are many ways in which practicing the Dharma is interpreted in terms of what that really means. And so therefore, I think it's crucial for us to develop a very clear understanding of what the genuine practice of Dharma really is.
所以我们现在很多人都在说我在修行，我在学习这个佛法，而其实大家对于修行都有一些不同的理解、不同的认识。譬如说，有的人觉得我在修行啊，因为我在供养，或者因为我在做礼拜，或者说我在读很多的佛经、很多的论点，或者有的人说我在禅修，所以会说我在修行，我在学佛。但是我觉得要很重要的就是要愿法向法，就是你的修行真的是要是符合佛法，是修行，而那到底是什么意思？这个我们一定要抓到。
아주 남게 가르쳐다 수수기 최냠내 체급기 냠용이네 앉아 안다나 신기다 배낭알이야 다 잡아요인게 something 살다지 최 남상에 비춰야 다 도나 쟁에 최냠내 지기 있었는데 쟁에 지 다 이제 망고치 용도 요래 디주 게 니주 디줄이야 처바치 두산에 아주 가르쳐야 온데 요래 선다 즉 최냠내 체스두산 아주 남규야 즉 남규인데 민자 즉 최체스두산에 아니지 다른 남규인데 민자지 미지 신다지 가르쳐다지 치 남규로 더네 두주 망고치 치 남규로 더네 고양지 최체스두산에 다지 this 교환로 되게 여기 아주 통과래. 남균그 지 자체하라 소바단 지 이제 제법이라 소 제맛이 위네 따고 최체스도 제 생계는 차. 안다지 남균 통화기 하면은 지 통화기 생계는 차. 진 된den게로 남균 간den거면 진 된den게로 차지 들치두산 오 따고 요아친자 고 최바 차샤. 고 나무 차샤 상하르지 아주 챙겨 알았어. 이내 딱 오늘은 나무 차이면 단독 따지 지규래 삼정도.
So, a lot of people come to me and say that they're interested in practicing the Dharma, or say that they want to practice the Dharma. And the way that this is interpreted sometimes in terms of what practicing the Dharma means is that we create an appearance for ourselves or of ourselves of appearing differently on the outside. So, for example, someone might be performing prostrations who wasn't previously performing prostrations. Or maybe someone that we didn't see carrying a mala before is now carrying a mala and reciting mantra and so forth. And when others observe these external changes, they might be inclined to say, they're practicing Buddhism now. They have become a Buddhist. They are practicing the Dharma and so forth. They might think that. But I think that it would require further analysis to determine whether those individuals have really begun to practice the Dharma or not.
所以，到底什么是修行呢？许多这些我认识一些朋友，他们都会来见我，他们也会跟我分享他自己是如何成为一位佛教徒，或者成为佛教徒之后，他有一些什么改变。但是我听起来都觉得他们形容的都比较是一些外在的，或者说形式上的一些不同，好像佛法就只是形式上的，以前你不会做的，现在你会做了的这样的一种改变。举例来说，他们会说我以前都没有这个拜佛，我也不懂怎么拜佛，但现在我会了，所以我是佛教徒。或者有的说，我以前我都不会拿念珠，但我现在手上有拿着念珠；或者我以前不会念什么这个咒语，但我现在口中可以念念有词。但是我们得要想一想，这些外在的改变就会让你成为是佛教徒吗？这些就是法的定义吗？其实并不一定。
내가 주산다 대다들이야 예 수수계기 가져야지 냠뇽 세란장도 야나지 배수연접시 슈인 다티 가르사나 그랑 아춘춘 거두사네 다 가르저 수수 깨서디 호르 다 마시 표에디 깨서 맞다 가르저 그래 깨서디다 남배 김상지 깨브레 제가 깨드네 바지다 남바레스 라네 바지 남바 차라 강예스케 매비치 차려네 그러면 가시에 지 남바 차려야 디상 가시에 패밀리 멤버들 남바 매비치 수수 직보 남바 인두사네 되게 강예스 와 되게 강예게요 말해 안테네 로디운 겁이야 안 까마버레 지문지 셔브레 거기도 까마버사데 가르이 미하고 말다 수수 까마버사데 수인 가르이 하고요 말다 미즈레스라도 인도도시 아 데브레 다드네 고베나노리아 티 엔다지 나 최종 롭종도 되지 다 되지 셴주스다네 다지 소소 지 가르쳐다 남바 많이 까매르지 가르쳐다 지 충두네 지 상롱 총세 쿠유 데게 토네 게 레용주스다네 엔지수 남바 많이 까매버세나라도 다지 남바인 이미 군세 첨부 예산으로 듣는 대행 거래. 대일 수수 남바인 섬 텐데 거래. 다이네야 아주려 저 좋아신다지 가로르스나 수수 미상부지 이마인스 대저와대 내용도 엔디스 강에도 남바인 섬 텐데 거래 미상부 이민사도 오 다디 참점 미상부 지금 인삼사로지 참삼 민삼 땡땡이라지 다음에 땡겨로지 뒤에 패셔야 될 바지 미상부 때 바지 인삼만서 사로지 다들 직차리 알아요 제가 다티 대는 견다를 차디도 남바 인삼 젠데 알아이네 미상부 뒤 바지 때 책규인데 버지 미상부 때 이미 태순 차디야 소지 근데 오늘 전에 지나지 최바사데 지당 미상부지를 고체 토르지 인고로 봐 이내야다도 미상부 보란 철규래 대지 남바 인삼 텐데 거래 다디 소수가 봐 롬데 버지 인삼 텐데 버지 지 치기 겐의 구유를 된체 소수지 인삼 텐데 봐마도 오늘 전에게 가주르다 최바친이다 되면지 우리니즈 토라 참여자 제가 다다봐도 수수수 고고 단체 대대버듯이 대시 통도 없어.
To explore this angle further, I think it would be helpful to share a story from my personal experience. From the time I was born onward, I lived in a Buddhist environment, and my family was a Buddhist family. So there was no challenge or difficulty for me in terms of assuming an identity of being a Buddhist. For others, there might have been some challenges in coming to consider themselves a Buddhist because perhaps they were the only one in their family who chose to become a Buddhist and so forth. But for me, there were no such difficulties because I was raised in that type of an environment where everyone automatically considered themselves to be a Buddhist. And then, after I turned 7 years old, I was recognized as the Karmapa. I didn't know what or who the Karmapa was, but I was told, "You are the Karmapa." So then I just pretended that that's who I am. I was led off to the monastery and given all kinds of Buddhist studies and so forth to engage in. And so when it comes to the question of being a Buddhist, it was a really choiceless situation for me. I didn't have any choice but to be a Buddhist. And so therefore, I always had the thought, I am a Buddhist. But there can be another question asked, and that is, are you a good person? So when it comes to answering the question, are you a Buddhist, that was never a question that was in any doubt for me. But what if we ask the question, are you a good person? When I examine myself, I sometimes find that I am a good person. But then at other times when I examine myself, I find maybe not so much. So this question is much more uncertain than the question, are you a Buddhist? So if I truly examine myself honestly, then it seems most of the time I'm not such a great person. And here we meet up with a very contradictory situation. We have no problem thinking that we're a Buddhist, but we're not so sure whether we are a good person or not. But the reality of the matter is, a Buddhist must be someone who has achieved a high level of being a good person. A true practitioner of the Dharma is not just an ordinary good person, but must be an excellent person. And so therefore, I think that this thought, I am a Buddhist, involves some degree of pretense, some degree of self-deception. So aside from thinking, I'm a Buddhist, when I really analyzed myself, I found that I'm not really a good person all of the time, and therefore thinking I'm a Buddhist all the time is just deceiving myself.
所以这里我以一个个人的经验来说，那这是我自己小的时候的这样一段到现在的一个经验。首先我是出生在可以说就是一个佛教的家庭，那么所以要接触佛法或者对佛法有信仰并不是一件很困难的事情。那我知道在座有些人是很困难的，因为可能你学佛，但是家庭亲人并没有学佛而遇到一些困难，但我并不是。总之接着呢，我7岁又被认证为这个噶玛巴。说实在，他是谁？噶玛巴是谁？他是干什么的？我都不知道。就是有一天跟我说，有人说你是噶玛巴，我说好吧，那我就是吧。那也就装着就是噶玛巴了。那总之接着我就进到了寺院，也继续去学习佛教，对佛教有一些认识。所以从这一段经验来讲，我比较自然的，或者也可以说是不得不的，我就成为了一个佛教徒。因此，如果有一个人问我说你是不是佛教徒，很快很简单就可以回答说当然。所以佛教徒对我来说是一个很理所当然的一个答案，我就是一个佛教徒。但是接着比较深刻的另外一个就是一个问题问说，我是不是一个好人，或者说我够不够善良？你会发现这个问题要回答起来就不那么容易了。比起你是不是佛教徒，你可能要再想一想。有的时候我自己一想会发现，好像也不一定有的时候还不错，但有的时候实在很糟糕，而且发现大部分时候都不怎么好。所以这个时候你会发现，我自己心中就有一种抵触，一种违背，就是你又说自己是佛教徒，但是真正看看心里面，你对这个法，或者说所谓的法就是一个善，一个好，我有做到吗？这个修行，这个我有做到吗？这时候我就甚至我们会说，成为佛教徒不是应该比善更好、更殊胜的一件事，但是我却没有做到。所以或许到现在为止，我并不是一个真正的佛教徒，那只是说我是佛教徒，所以可能我到现在就是一种理所当然的，在环境影响之下一种装模作样，或者说一种欺骗自己的情况而已。
링주스탄에 게 소화를 가르치면서나 나베치얼로저 샤디기 수수지 나버차르지 strange persons 말다 지담입니다 민자야 지 수르도 봐 되는시 지 physical 토네나를 가리네 지 넘교디 민자르 된시 아 남바 인스 제제 가다르지 넘교르 된 거야 아서지 근데 제래도 성원이 넘어 나베치얼로저 샤디기 소디 남바 좀 strange person 좀 봐 수도 지당 밀에 봐 수도 된시 지 physical 토안에 지 this mandaras 제 에너지 미즈 따디스안 고지 남바면 지 가르치 민 괜찮을 도 섬사로 지네 삼 동서로 지네 지 많이 봐 안배체 로저샤 조지 미상버차 지 삼바상도 당 삼바구양도 당 에너지 수조의 수수기 시거사 교도하데 개심샤래샤 미망부지기 어단 딩의 시거인 제산디 요아도아 요마레스 라고요아레 이네 오늘 전에 지 남배 쇼로 좀 생기지나 디 excuse 샤메레 삼죠 수수 시가 인상 없이 님의 인상 대 예바도 요아동과야지다 대 요아동하기 뽑아다 님도 단 대바 이미나 근데 시네 나버스니다 대바 저거를 삼정도 아 야나지 나버스 말하네 지금 미상버지 저거를 삼정도 레인주스나 디균센데네 녀모래야 진년부 대안에 안장도 다나지 양 초진 시합에 수수 시간 요다에는 시간에 맞아 요다에는 장도 나 되게들이야 수수기 오늘 지내다 민도던 데매 로타 쉐브르 지과디 개심 시라레 삼적이에요.
My thought is that being a Buddhist is not all about just becoming some strange, weird-looking person who does weird things that other people don't do in terms of their physical activities or their outward demeanor. Being a Buddhist isn't about just making ourselves look differently from others. I think the main point about being a Buddhist is that we're trying to become better people. We're trying to become a good person. We're trying to cultivate a positive attitude and a more spacious heart and mind. And in fact, being a Buddhist involves making changes to the negative aspects of our personality. And this can be very challenging because some people might react by saying, well, this is my personality, and therefore I can't change it. That's just who I am. But Buddhism takes a different approach. It says, no, it's your personality, and you definitely need to change it if it entails negative qualities. So I think that if we can really work on transforming the negative aspects of our personality and do so with confidence and strength of heart, then we might reach the level that we can say that we are a Buddhist. And even if we don't want to say that we are a Buddhist, we will indeed be a good person. So the practice is all about applying remedies to one's disturbing emotions, transforming the negative aspects of one's personality or character. And it's important to do so with great strength of heart and decisiveness.
所以在这里，我觉得修行啊，它并不是你要变成很另类，譬如说突然变得奇装异服，或者说甚至变得很异类哦，让别人一走在路上看出啊你就是佛教徒，并不是这个样子。所以成为佛教徒或学佛，并不是说一种外在形式上的改变。我觉得最重要的还是你的内心变得更善良了，你成为了一个好人，甚至你的心更加的开阔，更加的包容。我觉得这才是最重要的一件事情。而且更重要的，我们说学佛修行其实是改变你的个性，尤其个性是最难改。很多人都会口头禅都会说，哎，我就这样改不了的，不可能的。但如果你要真的是个佛教徒，这不是个借口，你不能说因为我是这样我就改不了。如果你真是个佛教徒，不会说出这样的话。换句话说，佛教徒他会很积极的说，这就是因为他是我的恶习，所以我下定决心了，我有一种勇气，我要去面对它，去接受它，同时我要去改变它。所以什么叫做修行？刚刚我们主题叫做转变烦恼也好，或者说你可以讲，就是你面对跟愿意去改变，下定决心要改变你的恶习，我觉得这个就是修行吧。
那就是你是，你的讲说，刚忙不起你的对吧？对吧？忙不起也送，他这里就是三大，你忙不起么？我这接的主要是些够了呀，这些呢下国个用过的，俺这里人家这些国个兄弟搞不起来，就是我就。那么你搞了呀？你他们都是。
I think I've gone over time, so I will conclude my presentation at this point. I would like to once again say that I'm very delighted to have the opportunity to be together with you all, and especially to be in the presence of these two great masters. Thank you, everyone.
我想我也讲过了超过一些时间，那么就讲到这里。最后我想要再说的是，我真的很高兴有这一次的机会，同时要特别感谢开始的2位法师的开示。
Your Holiness, I just want to assure you that you are good on time. Actually, you have 2 extra minutes. But now we are going to move into our panel discussion. So we're going to spend a few more minutes to have a panel discussion among our 3 speakers, and then we'll open the floor to questions from the audience. In your presentation, both Venerable Shidai and also Your Holiness, you have shared a personal story of how you've dealt with various kinds of, emotions in different ways. And I wonder, and I boldly, on behalf of our audience, I would like to ask all of our speakers, do you have any, I think you will appreciate me, do you have any practical advices on practical instructions about how to deal with emotions such as anger, hate, and desire, and also stress? How to deal with them immediately, like in 3 to 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
5 minutes? Oh. 5 minutes.
大宝法王，问题是想请问您，就是在如果碰到特别紧急的情况，我现在很生气，然后就是压力非常大的时候，您有没有什么开示，让我能在3到5分钟之内控制我的情绪？
让我流汗啊。다디 까망어루 나올 때 컨트롤 쳐야 돼. 지당기 안한 두세 냠냠 쳐야이나. 근데 지당도 지가 주는 게지 냠모를 봐. 여와 쳐야이나 막고 싶시야 그래. 자외 냠모도 녀외 냠모도 지사 막고 싶야다. 남기지 지 가주래. 지 dom지 셰주사네. 지 되자시랑 디무스 사르 셰거래. 당아도 냠냠 쳐야이나. 写堂的爹是我吹啊，就写堂啥的眼里啊，就看这一嘛。当然写堂捐看了也没啥的，我吹啊，这是来拉有的事情。他这里留下的这是过来好有出去，留下的捐给车机越来越说的呢，他捐的原的这面说情怕汤的啥的。这我吹啊的被这捐钱去嘛，我吹啊的，这些过来好不去的说情。 얘는 그런 거 쳐야 다 디무스야드네 간도 디드르 게면도 다 가리 뭐스야 하시다 매den게 주시 그걸 디무 인상 몸베 더니제지 인상 얘는 그런 뭐스야 돼 그라 하버죠 뭐 뭐스인데 그捐心 이버데 하고 하데 가고 싶지 않아야지 그래서 아니도 제가 되게 년부 때문에 걸려야 다지 人别是年不点嘛的对不起了，推荐里啊呗，年不点啥的，搞了还不是啥意思嘞？哪怕都叔叔里啊，眼里啊，牛毛搞了收钱呀，这里啊眼里年不点，别那学堂都是吃啥不意味呢？到底学堂给，等于给这的人不吃都能俺老啊。学堂给，这当俺处理啊，没谁拿了去控制浪不当，去控制浪不当，这学堂浪不这个。 你最忙不穷啊的，你最穷不穷啊？是去看着蓝色的，蓝色的有下什么下给登高嘛？我那时候前边呢，这个这边的，就说是去看着蓝边高的，第高的你最搞得穷吧？第的嘞是亲密大三两张的 ，recalling back 这些什么当个，高的就是咱叔叔给，你那玩意可能是穷吧？你们用可能穷不的，老种钱钱。 第一套呢，俺叔叔给学堂啥、控制啥的，肯定行吧？我吹下来啊，就给 가서 탑시해야 돼. 개심시라래 해서 아주 수수 냠냠 총듯이 드리지 인두산에 뒤토는 수수 로정이야. 그래서 가지 콘르게는 엔타바지 콘르게가 도경으로 차지. 된다면 차지. 되면 콘르게가 될 때지 수수 로정이야지. 걸리세제 수수 콘르사의 그 지인바지 하고 돼야지다. 안 콘르사의 수수리야. 컨제지 가서다지 그 컨제지 용어도 와. 다디 뭐처 도과들 수수 냠냠 되네. 자디 개치슈레샤. 시야마도 미지기베 저시 망부지 갑이네야. 디 오늘 전에 수수기 지 가서 셈라 숙도야지. 딘지기 지 가서 초와게야 돼. 가라하고샤. 조조다 지 참정가지고 정도 참정 콘도 가지지 체지 눈주 체지 수행하나 대성식이야 지 고지 묘모 비견 통투야래 팬도 요거만 다이나 참으로 눈주 속을 쓰고만다 이내야 드립시에샤 드린 주사는 다부 교인이 통 교용 통사회제래야 아주 생문 나로래야 남균에 다단기 아주 마스터직 송송 아주 셈 나로래야 베지 초니유서 지기 공로 능기 인사하지 셈 나로래 미니기 시래 지 공로 능기 지 공로 능기 민사하지 간다 수수디 기텔이야 타마지 되베 소지 근데 나와르 시원도 제가 탁수디 수수이 개가 세는다도 수수이 완전히 술을 때 맞아야 돼 수수 타지에 가야지 내가 차려 사바르 당분 고주베 거리야 당분 타주 셰비네야 데 타주디 제네 즉 수수기 가수다 뇨모 바르베 냠부 템베 거리야 serious 시라자면도 삼정도스 serious 시라체신 에서니 가수에 뇨모가 코란 serious 체를 차지 엔 다나시 지 판과를 충분히 미네 베디 serious 체제 타주 체인 주사네 엔 판과 충분히 그도리야 근데 지 데스 지 뭐차로 차대야지 수수 베 판과 충분히 그도리야 심슈 차 디 가서 망해요 되게 왜소지 serious 맞지 지 재미있어 소리지 아 결혼 요mon데 결혼에 대 근데 쇼점에는 예 결혼 최다치지 알아니 수행에도 최다치기 있어서 그렇지 근데 지기 재미있 루시서만 근데를 쉐비이나 산이 판과 충분히네 아 할래스 게임에 되게로시 근데를 용기도 이 나는 자 타주 쉐비 집이 편기 요만에 디 소수 타주 쉐비디 소수의 셈리야 배 가수에 전부 댄시 니머를 레벨 나와진이 나라를 수준이 좀 나라를 수수 가르 다시 쉐리 뭐디 수술이야 가수 즉 전수에 땅 와야 계속 시작하고 나와니 숨스데 제투나 아니 바지 kum시를 태세 아니 양내양도 제시 때 먹고 버지 제시 때 먹고 선다도 제수 땅 먹고 버지 드리지 용서를 섬정도스 I think even I'm talking also took 5-6 minutes. Ahora tangi chikde nyomo ba kyongwe siana nyomo ba chiki kyongwe siana losum shi ngatu tende godo sangdo even more.
Lasa.
Tende chingdo. 심쇼 마차 차고랬어.
Lasa. It would be difficult to bring all of our disturbing emotions under control in 5 or 6 minutes. And furthermore, the Buddhist teachings, generally speaking, take a very detailed and thorough approach to relating with disturbing or destructive emotions. There are Buddhist presentations, for example, about the root mental afflictions, the secondary mental afflictions, and so on and so forth. But in Tibetan Buddhism, we often say that if you boil all of these disturbing emotions down, there's 3 essential types of disturbing emotions or mental afflictions. namely desire, aggression, and bewilderment. I think that from among these three, the destructiveness of anger is the easiest, or aggression, is the easiest to recognize. So aggression from among the three is most readily recognized and understood as a destructive emotion, a disturbing emotion. And then the next one we can discuss is desire. Desire is an emotion that can be recognized, but it's more difficult than aggression to recognize it as destructive or disturbing by nature. So we might recognize the presence of desire, but we're not so clear about whether it is advantageous to have or destructive to have operative in our mind stream. And then there is bewilderment. And since it is bewilderment, we're very bewildered in relation to it. So not only is it difficult for us to recognize the flaws of having bewilderment, it's also difficult for us to recognize even the presence of bewilderment. It's difficult for us to recognize that it is even operative in our experience. And so when it comes to applying remedies for these disturbing emotions, we need to apply the remedies in stages. And one of the ways we can do this is that we first must determine which of the disturbing emotions is more strong within ourselves. Let's take, for example, the disturbing emotion of aggression or anger. We might find that we're someone that gets angry all of the time, and we wonder what we can do about that. I think it's very important to use our faculty of retrospective attention so that we can actually review our experience from day to day or week to week and ask ourselves, how many times did I get angry today? When did I get angry? And so forth. What was it like? We can study our own experience in that way. And if we use our moments of anger to learn more about ourselves, then we don't have to consider anger as just something meaningless, as just some kind of punishment that is being inflicted upon us, but rather an opportunity to learn about our own mind. We can then, by reviewing our instances of anger, come to understand more clearly how anger is a problem for us, how it is, in what specific ways for us personally it is destructive in nature. So it's very important for us to use our own personal experience as the basis of our investigation, not just the explanations of someone else. We need to use our own personal experience so that our investigation really penetrates through to our heart. And moreover, sometimes the more stronger and more powerful instances of anger are the ones that teach us the most. They introduce to us or point out to us most clearly why and how anger is destructive in nature, what makes it arise, what makes it tick, and so forth. So I'm not encouraging you to necessarily intentionally trigger powerful moments of anger, but I have observed that when they do happen, they can sometimes, if we apply this retrospective attentiveness, they can sometimes be the most instructive to us. So our master from the Mahayana tradition, the Venerable Taishe, earlier talked about the two different levels of mind. And it's the same case when we're dealing with destructive emotions as well. Sometimes it feels as if there is a voice inside our mind saying that we should get angry, and then another voice inside our mind saying we should not get angry, and that we ourselves are in the middle between these two, and we are the ones who have to make the decision about, are we going to get angry or are we not going to get angry? So in the end, we ourselves must make a decision about how we relate to our own emotions, but we shouldn't take the whole project too seriously. Sometimes if we get too serious and say, this anger is a big problem, I must deal with it, I must eradicate it, and so forth, that actually invests more energy in the anger itself. And when we allow our anger to defeat us, or when we become defeated by our own anger, it's a more painful, more humiliating experience. And that type of reaction is not helpful. So instead of being so serious about trying to overcome our negative emotions, we can permit ourselves to take a playful attitude and approach our destructive emotions with the spirit of, oh, okay, you want to mess things up for me, but I'm going to see if I can prevent you from doing that. And let's see which one of us is the strongest. If we take that kind of a playful attitude, then even if our anger defeats us from time to time, it's no big deal. It's no big, painful, humiliating situation, but everything becomes a further opportunity to learn. And furthermore, we always need to encourage and remind ourselves to relate with our emotions with mindfulness and apply whatever remedies we have found helpful to reduce our destructive emotions. If we get into the habit of relating to our emotions with mindfulness for 2 or 3 months in a row, then it will become a more naturally ingrained habit where we don't have to make it such a forced thing or such an intentional project, but it will happen naturally. Even still, I think that in order to truly get to know our emotions, recognize the flaws of our destructive emotions, and then transform them, that's a process that will take 3, 4, 5, 6 years or even more. And so it's important for us not to lose heart and not allow ourselves to become discouraged.
那么以我个人的经验来说，我们在这里谈到要降服烦恼，那烦恼其实分很多种，如果你要仔细去讲解它的话，我们说有根本烦恼，有支分烦恼等等。但是总而言之，我们可以说烦恼大致分为3种，也就是一般说的贪嗔痴3种。那我觉得要对烦恼要了解它很重要，就是它是什么，还有它造成的问题是什么。那么就嗔心来讲，生气来讲，我觉得它比较容易去觉察它的问题造成的结果，也比较容易觉知得到。但是再下去就比较困难，譬如说贪心，贪心这个烦恼有时候不太容易了解，因为它有时候好像会是负面，但它有时候带来的结果又是正面的，所以你很难直接下决心说，哦，它就是不好的。再来更难的是愚痴了，因为愚痴本身就是愚痴，就是难以被知道，所以你更难觉察到这样的一种烦恼。所以换句话说，接着要谈到对峙上来讲的话，我觉得更难说，好，我3毒烦恼一起对峙。通常我们会说你是一个一个去对峙，尤其是各位我们可以先找到你觉得自己哪一个烦恼最重的，从那个下手去对峙它，我觉得这是最重要的。那举自己一个例子，举嗔心来说好了。在谈到降服嗔心的时候，我觉得很重要，就是你必须要把握你过去所有升起嗔心的机会，不要浪费它。我们其实很多时候都浪费了过往生气的很多的机会，生气完了也没了，自己痛苦的半死，好像给自己一种惩罚。但我觉得对治烦恼重点就是你要回顾一下，从过去你生气，好，我过去生气了，然后它造成我什么样的问题，什么样的痛苦，从每一个过程中去反思去想，从这个自己的经验会带给你最大的学习，因为你会真正知道这是你切身造成的痛苦，你也切身知道嗔心带来的问题在哪里。不然的话，很多时候如果只是别人灌输给你嗔心不好，嗔心不好，其实那都是他的经验，他很难成为你的，也很难真的是我们说搔不到痒处，你讲不到你真正这个问题你对他的感受在哪里。所以重点在对治烦恼的时候，可以从自己的经验上去学。举例来说，之前我们达义法师就有谈到他自己怎么样在面对嗔心的时候、生气的时候，好像有2个我。我觉得这是一个很好的例子。因为我们常常就处在一个这种 人天交战两个我的当中，你要怎么办？那我觉得修行的重点就在于你决定要怎么办，就是你觉得你要成为那个善的人，还是觉得你要成为恶的人，这是最重要的一件事情。你要下定决心，看对了就这样去做。再来就是对峙的时候，不要太严肃，不要太注重这个成败哦。因为如果你太严肃，你会发现那个烦恼它也会变得越来越强，而且你会觉得，哎呀，我升起烦恼，你还会有一种罪恶感，我怎么会升起烦恼？然后你又不断的还升起烦恼，你会觉得心灰意冷，觉得没办法再对峙它。所以我觉得对峙烦恼的时候，要像是玩游戏一样，烦恼来了，你看谁厉害，来吧，我对峙你。然后今天输了没关系，我明天再来，明天我们来再玩一次。所以你会有一种越战越勇的感觉。所以这就是对峙烦恼的一个重点，在于坚持，在于你选择了之后，你就要坚持的去做。它是每天你要去做的事情，可能2个月、3个月之后，慢慢你养成习惯了，这时候你会发现你不需要再提醒自己了。所以总之呢，对峙情绪不是容易的一件事，可能要2年、3年，你甚至才知道它是不好的，你才觉得你应该对峙它。所以大家不要灰心，继续努力，要加油。
Venerable Dai, so earlier when you were sharing your story, you said you had to make a quick decision and respond to a very challenging situation. You took a deep breath. And I have a question for Venerable Pandit Sarnapana. I know you have lots of experiences training firefighters and policemen. I wonder, what did you say to them in those trainings?
Okay. Well, I think before talking about the mindfulness training with the police and the first responders in Canada in the States, I think what you wanted, my personal experience and how I handle with such a disturbing emotion. I tell a lot of stories to my friends and colleagues and students. One story that I tell them, this happened in 2000. When I went to McMaster University to do my master's degree, so one day I was going to the class, and so I was staying very nearby, so I was walking to the campus, and I noticed there was a person who was looking at me with an angry face. And so I did not pay attention because, one of the techniques taught by the Buddha, when you notice someone is very angry and upset, you don't pay no attention to that person. So I was just, walking towards the campus. As I was passing by, this person, yelled at me saying, "What's the F you're doing here?" By the way, if I go through the translation, I'm going to lose my thing. Just be patient, okay? So then, by the way, the F word, that's the very first word I learned from the university. So I knew the meaning of this word. So I stopped and looked at him. I said, "Sir, I'm a student of McMaster University. I'm studying here." And so he kept asking, "What's the F thing you're putting on here?" So I said, to him, I completely looked an alien. So I said, "So I'm a Buddhist monk. This is my uniform, and so I don't have much time. I'm already late. Let me go to the campus." And so I said, "So I know you're angry, you're upset. May you be well, happy, and peaceful." He goes, "What? What's the F you said?" I said, "May you be well, happy, and peaceful." And then he said, "Wait a minute, can I have just a few seconds from you?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I want to talk to you. Can I have your phone number?" Now, this is a stranger who is yelling at me. Again, I was thinking of myself, this is a real test for me. I'm a simple Buddhist monk. I have nothing to gain, nothing to lose. So then I said, "Okay, here's a number." But I never thought he would call me. Now, on that day in the evening, he called me. He said, "Can I come and see you?" Now he's a person, who yelled at me, who's angry. Now he wants to come and see me. What if he kills me or does something. Then again, I was thinking like, again, I'm a Buddhist monk, this is the real test for me. Yeah. See whether the metta, the love and compassion works or not. I said, sir, yes, you can come. So following day, he came, and so I opened the door, and I offered him a seat, and then I said, sir, I don't have much here. I'm a student, and I have some juice, I have some cookies, I have some donuts, and please, have some. And he was so surprised. And then so he sat down. And of course, he came to see me to argue with me, At the same time, when I was treating him with kindness, and then he completely changed. He became very interested in my life story. So I had to tell my whole story, how I became a monk, why I'm doing this, and what kind of people I'm teaching. I showed him some pictures, And then he couldn't believe his eyes that he's talking to a real Buddhist monk, and then we had 3 hours conversation. And after that, guess what? He became a good friend of mine, and he said, sir, if I invite you to my wedding, would you come and bless me? I said, no problem. When time is up, just let me know. I will come. So he invited me. I went to the wedding, and as they have done the official thing, then it was my turn. They invited me to come onto the stage to bless them. So as I was grabbing the mic, this gentleman came and took the mic, and he told the whole audience, he said, this is as they say, the damn Buddhist monk changed my life. Okay. So I'm sorry for using this word, and I have become Canadian, so don't worry about those things, Yeah. So it's like, I was thinking like, I know he's angry, but I don't have to get angry. I have to have control over myself. I'm a monk, as you said, Your Holiness. This is the real test to see whether you're a real Buddhist or not. So if you're getting angry and upset with the other people, you're not being a Buddhist. And if you can transform that with loving kindness and compassion, that shows your real Buddhist personality and attitude. So this is my personal story. I tell this to everyone. Again, it's the real technique. I don't have to look at the angry person, but I have to look at myself. I'm looking at this person with an angry mind. I know this person is reacting to me with anger, but then I have to choose to react to this person with non-anger, love and compassion. It works. Yeah. That's the best remedy.
Yeah, thank you. So for concerns of time, I'm just going to make a spontaneous, arbitrary decision that we're not going to translate this part into Chinese, because I already saw people lining up for questions. And before we open the floor to question, one last thing that I want to ask all of you. So, Your Holiness, you have mentioned mindfulness in your talk yesterday, and today, all of the 3 speakers, you have mentioned the word meditation at various points in your presentation. So, medication has been the major treatment to deal with mental issues such as depression. And we have reports that some patients are, these days, instead of taking drugs, they are considering alternative choices, such as they're planning to turn to Buddhist practices like mindfulness-based practices, meditation, or other Buddhism-inspired practices. To these individuals, what advices will you give them? Should they rely on doctors and science, or the Buddha and his teachings?
Okay. That was someone laying out with the class to the Karelauta. That Kuranji graduate Tangazalia Penta Tati Neza Young Enzu Gon Siena, Yahomero Song to Siamado di Sheshimendo. Neza Young End did that. Me, Damada, Nedan Damada, Machi, Gangayu de Yosamore. Kibu Yabuchi and that, not why you money. And then the word child is not or 가시 기부 야거든 레용도 다 레인주스다네 가시 오늘 직봐 직 구주삼버드 녜지 가리네 지 제토를 선서를 정려하라디 이능에 가리네 제토야 갈라 가보시라래 이내야 다지 가서 두도를 수수에게 닝타바네 지 시안이야 전도를 주는 삼제 가서 두도를 지가하래 제가 가시 계시 안 덥실라네 펜터 용했는데도 가시는 오늘은 mental 가서지 심기엔 차대버로 even more somewhere 다지 지 왕벽이 자들래 레벨 자를 연셔대버로 다든데 용디도 다 디게들이야 다지 오늘 지 MG로 들때 scientist semcom 기세리로 들때 MG로 들때나 펜도 체면으로 선서로 좀아도 아주 예락해야 되잖아 레미도 제가 디규전 때는 지 점도 많고 지 유스래 된 이미네양 가르래 다 망부지 다 등산지 통계날 땡게지 소리야지 semcom마데 요데가 망부시도 근데 그때 망부지 2 years shaman the that is just some ton shebrich some ton dan shebche and dan 신지 공을 겹치 이제 토하는지 셈데마 르르 샤트야로 이제 충분히미나 하나 고쳐 줘야 이제 망보시라요 없자
I think it would be better for me to speak from my personal experience of consulting with individuals who come to me to discuss their problems. Of course, many people come to see me and talk to me, and most of these individuals are going through hard times. People don't come to meet with me if everything is going well for them. Most of the people that come to see me are experiencing difficulties and hardships. Of course, some people do come as well who are happy, and that's fine as well. But for the most part, it's people who are going through various types of difficulties. And these include people who are going through various psychological difficulties and so forth. They're struggling with various types of mental health issues and sometimes even neurological health problems. So in some cases, I feel I not sure whether I can really help them or not, but I always try to do whatever I can to help them with a motivation from my heart that I will try to be as beneficial as possible. And some of these individuals and some of these situations can be ameliorated through advice that I might have to give, or through light that I can shine in their situation from my perspective. But in the cases of the more serious challenges with regard to psychological health or psychiatric health, I really feel that these individuals would be better suited, or their situation would be better treated by mental health professionals, psychologists, psychotherapists, psychiatrists, and so forth. So there's some situations that I feel are above my head and above my range of abilities to relate to. And then another comment that I would make is I think that it's very common particularly in our contemporary cities, that many people struggle sometimes with mental health. Mm-hmm. And for some of these situations, I think that meditation and mindfulness can be beneficial to encourage these individuals, to help them not take their problems too seriously, and so on. I think in some situations, meditation and mindfulness and techniques like this can be very beneficial.
Okay. Thank you, Your Holiness. Now we're going to open the floor to questions from the audience. We have about 8 minutes, so please be brief. Thank you. We're going to take the first question from this side.
Hello. So my name is Sora Wei, and I'm from Ann Arbor KTC and also Shambhala. And I wanted to ask a little about in terms of non-sectarianism, because this is a panel with 3 different lineages. And I'm kind of struggling with information overload. So we're talking about, focusing on our essential problems. But with so many techniques, how do we balance what we feel is right and the advice of teachers we respect? Because, there's so many wonderful stories, but what am I supposed to do, on an individual level? So thank you, Venerable Masters and His Holiness, the Karmapa.
Okay. Thank you for asking such a beautiful and pragmatic questions. I know there's so much to digest. We have shared so many techniques, so many informations. Buddha's teaching is not about just believing. He said, you could say, oh, His Holiness Karmapa is my hero, my master. Therefore, whatever he says, I should believe, I should do it. And Venerable Master Dai is my hero. I respect him. Whatever he says, I should do it. Oh, myself, I love Theravada Buddhist monks, and therefore, whatever they say, we should follow it. This is not Buddha's teaching. It's like there's a story. Let me tell you this story, and if you permit me, maybe it could take 5 or 6 minutes. I don't know, maybe more than that.
I'm in stress.
So it's like there was a famous sutra called Kalama Sutra. K-A-L-A-M-A. Kalama. Just Google. You're a young girl. You can Google right now. There's a beautiful story. This is a story about the Kalama people in the Buddha's time. Kalama, this village, is situated by the forest. So there's an entrance to the forest. So there are different people going into the forest to meditate. So after some time, the first, the master or the philosopher or teacher comes out, and the very first people he meets is the Kalama people. And then he tells them, Kalamas, you know what, I have been practicing meditation in this forest for this many years, and I know the truth. I had discovered the remedy, the solution to the problem. Therefore, whatever I'm saying, that's the truth. And what others are saying, that's not. So then this philosopher would go away. Another day, another master would come out from the forest, and he would denigrate the first master, and then he would praise his own discovery, his own teachings. And say, I discovered the truth, this is the only truth, others are wrong. And then he would go away. And another teacher would come. So like this, every time a monk or meditator comes out from the forest, he emphasizes his own teachings and denigrates others. At the same time, during that time, the Buddha happened to be in that village. And then Kalamas heard, oh, Buddha was such an enlightened master. He knows the truth. So they went to see him. And then this Kalama people told him, the Venerable Sir, we are confused. Every day a new teacher comes out from this forest and they highly emphasize their own teachings and while denigrating others' teachings. And I don't know, or we don't know who is speaking the truth. So the Buddha said, Kalama, it's good that you're confused. It's good that you're confused. Then the Buddha said, don't just believe anything. You have to test this teaching. Buddha set some rules. He said, because of my parents, I should not believe this, do this. Because of my teacher, or because it sounds good, or because it's logical, or because it has been practiced in all this time through the lineage, through the tradition. This is the truth. The Buddha said, because of these things, don't accept it, don't believe it, don't do anything. When you hear something, test it, practice it. And when you practice, from the practice, you'll get to realize, see whether this is good for me, good for the others, good for everyone. Whether it is beneficial to me, beneficial to others, beneficial to everyone. And if it is good, positive, beneficial, wholesome to me, to others, to everyone, then Buddha said, feel free to follow that path. Got it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to take a second question from the right, and then we'll turn to the left. Thank you for your understanding.
Your Holiness, I've been privileged to travel to the source of Yalang Sampa in Tibet and the ancient places of worship in China, Danhan Caves. In Toronto, I'm along with Bhante Saran Balaji and Reverend Daishi, very deeply involved in the hosting of the planning for the next Parliament of the World's Religions in Toronto next year, November 2018, which we hope Your Honor, Your Highness will be blessing us. Yesterday we had a 2-hour conversation with the other board of directors in Chicago and other places on the major theme for the Canadian Parliament of World Religions. And the theme we were narrowing down to was and is being good. Not just good as an individual, as Bhanteji has said, but the larger context of Priya and Shriya, that which is pleasant versus that which is good for the larger good. My question, Your Holiness, is this. In that context, is it possible for not just the Sangha or the individual of the Sangha, the communities, but for the nations, for the countries, from this point onwards, to also look for the larger good? Not just self-interest, which is important in the industrial age, but being good for the larger good. With your blessings, perhaps we will have this theme at next year's Parliament of World Religions, which is Toronto is hosting it. But my question is it possible? Is it feasible? Is it hopeful? Can we hope?
Individual ki sangbo chaya dang, that collective ki sangbo chaya niyo re, that collective yakap ki wang wichine collective sangbo chaya ki rewa yorves.
상부치야 저희 요레스 나 다들 간다 드시 야오다 드시 야만다 요레스 상부치야 저희스 안에 지 가르쳐라디 데리아 지금 머신에 편수지 다이얼로그 체시 다 간다지 디자인지 만지 세리 바다지 최버 지 슈루바사데 지 겐다르 샤다 디자 편수지 지는 조린 체시 냠도 내가 체제 아니지 common good summary 체제 제가 아주 쉽게 주야는데 데이터 시가래 다 뒤서로 가서 상황을 출루 편수이나래 출루의 세리이나래 다는 시 출루 다 아주 상황 소셜 지조 내가 신경다 다는 신기 출루 민나다 다는 세리바 아주 상황 연기시 주린시 디체비나 대대가 아주 상황 얘기 다 공급수만 신지 조조를 삼천도
Yes, there is hope. We can do that. There is already dialogue happening between communities and individuals from various disciplines. So not just spiritual traditions discussing this topic amongst themselves, but more and more scientists are getting together with representatives of spiritual communities, and they're assuming a collective responsibility for the welfare of the world, or assuming their or expressing their desire to assume a collective responsibility for the welfare of the world. And I think that this interdisciplinary and inter-community dialogue should continue and be expanded upon, so that spiritual traditions can have more dialogue with each other, and then the spiritual traditions and religions can have more dialogue with scientists. But not only that, there can be more dialogue between members of these communities that have been mentioned and people who do social work and representatives of a great many disciplines and fields. If we come together and share our ideas and inspirations, then this will definitely increase the collective goodwill that exists in the world. And so there is hope for this, for sure.
Okay. Thank you, Your Holiness.
Can I say just two words?
Okay, please.
Your Holiness, that's my friend, Mr. Canad. He has taken the lead, and also with all the faith communities in Toronto. Next year, we are having the Parliament of World Religion right here in Toronto. So larger good is possible with your presence. So I hope Your Holiness would come here next year.